Good morning, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor. Welcome to Heaven on Earth. If you're new to this video series, the purpose and the reason I'm doing this is I'm pretty committed to the idea that it's possible that we can create heaven on earth. I don't want to wait, right? So spectacular though heaven I'm sure is, I'm not waiting. I want to bring that right here, right now. So this video series is all about exploring some possibilities about that. What's in the way, what we might do about what's in the way, how can we embrace all that we are. And of course, my core belief now is that we are born magnificent. It's just that sometimes that magnificence gets overshadowed by life, by our environment, by what other people say. Oh, there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. So I want to unravel that, and I want to have a conversation about these things that I'm working through, that I expect I'll be working through right till the day I depart this planet. So I thought it would be fun to have you join me. So buckle up. Here we go. Our topic today is the topic of acceptance. It's a big topic. So I'm only going to do a small piece of it today and share some examples about what I've been musing about this topic. I'm not sure that I have any answers. I've had some results through the years and then more questions, and maybe you have too. So this is really a seeding the ground for looking at why acceptance might be important to us. So I'll give you a right at home, right now example of my wrestle with acceptance. Outside my apartment in our complex, they have been digging up concrete and down into the earth to replace some kind of piping. I'm guessing sewer piping. As a result, there are these big earth movers and graders and machines that are making a constant beep, beep, beep when they back up, and it's noisy, and it's disturbed my peace to a great deal. So I don't sit out on my balcony during the day too much because it's so noisy out there, and I like my peace and quiet. So it has been challenging for me to accept this, because there's a part of me, because this is not my preference to have them out there mucking about and making a big mess and causing a great commotion. That's not what I want. So I'm at odds with what is and what I want it to be. And now eventually, I know they'll work their way around, they'll get finished, they'll go away, and it'll be quiet again, and I'll revel in that peace. So maybe one of the blessings to come out of this is how much more I'll value my peace and quiet, because it's been disturbed for a while now, and is going to continue on for another little while. So here we are, often in life, faced with this disparity between what we really want, or what's really important, or we really value, and what's actually going on. It's tough to wrestle with that internal, at least I find it is, that internal thing of, well, what do I do with this? I don't like this. So accepting it has been a challenge, because me inside says, well, I don't like this, and so I don't want to accept it. Okay, well, what's the alternative? I can deny that it's happening, except my eyes say differently, my ears say differently. I can deny that it's bothering me, which might work for a little while until I find myself snapping at the smallest thing and being irritated about other things, being triggered when I'm not usually triggered. So maybe that doesn't work so well. So where do I go with that? Well, one place I've learned to go is to go inward and come to some kind of a peace about what is and say, do I like it? No. Is it bothering me? Yes. Do I want it to bother me for longer and longer and longer? Well, no, I don't. So what are my options here? So I have kind of a thorough think about that and explore it from a variety of ways, because I know that it's not going to stop immediately. I know, well, it's Friday, so the weekend's coming up. They might work till noon tomorrow, and then I've got peace and quiet for the weekend, the rest of the weekend. So I have that to look forward to. So in my strategies to deal with what I really feel is unacceptable to me, then one thing is I find things to look forward to. Well, at least if I leave my apartment, I can find peace and quiet somewhere else. So that's one option. I have good friends who have offered their homes and said, well, Sue, if it gets too noisy and you need some peace and quiet to work, you can come to my house. Oh, that's so great. And so I have those options. I can go to the park. Last weekend I went to the zoo, escaped from all the noise, and my son, bless him, said, well, Mom, if it's too noisy for you, come to my house for supper. And I'm going, oh, bonus. He was cooking. So that was a very attractive offer. So it's not as if it's the end of the world if this goes on, even though it's not that acceptable to me. So I guess in the coming to terms with what's unacceptable to us or things that we don't like, it's to think about it in such a way that its significance starts to really shrink. I mean, the whole scheme of things, the noise that's out there is not a bomb destroying my neighborhood. All right. I'm safe in my house, even though they're working in the complex. So in contrast to other things that could be far more dangerous and far more disruptive, that's not happening to me. So I can come to some level of peace about that and say, well, that at least is, it's not as bad as it could be. So that's one possibility that runs through my mind. And the other possibility is recognizing that it's short-lived. This won't be going on forever. They're not going to be doing it forever. Now, we know in this part of the world that when winter comes, the city construction is going to slow down because they're not able to work on the roads and do all manner of things year round here with the weather the way it is. And so we go, oh, we can have the peace and quiet that the snow brings. So nothing in that sense lasts forever. Well, and maybe that's a truism, that nothing lasts forever anyway, at least not in the form that we see it right now. So there's some comfort in that this too shall pass. I like that phrase, and I use it lots, especially when I'm in a disruptive state or disharmony or something like that, okay, well, this too shall pass. It might not be in this next 5 minutes, but maybe a week from now or 2 weeks from now or whatever. Eventually, the feeling that I'm feeling right now is going to flow out. Just like it flowed in, it's going to flow out. Well, that ties in quite nicely to what I wanted to talk about in relation to emotions when it comes to acceptance. I know I was brought up to believe that certain emotions are acceptable and certain emotions are unacceptable, especially as a female. So it was perfectly fine for the males in my life to display their anger, to rant and rave and raise their voices and that. That was just considered normal. Nobody liked it necessarily, but that was just, oh, well, men are like that. And so it was just kind of tossed off as well. That's the way they are, you know. Boys are boisterous, and they can get angry and all of that. So I grew up with it, but young ladies do not behave that way. They do not show their anger. And in fact, the more you can do to, as a girl, and then morphing into a young woman, the more you can do to ignore or dampen down or push that anger into a tiny corner somewhere, as if it doesn't exist, that would be better. That was the way you deal with that. And in fact, when I think of the schooling I had in relation to my behavior, so much of it was around the fear of what others would think if I burst out laughing, if I had an insane giggle come out of my mouth, if I danced around in excitement, if I frowned and was grumpy and looked miserable. All of those emotions that were in me that are normal to the human condition, that we all experience in a variety of ways, right from the second that we're born, were eventually and gradually deemed to be borderline acceptable. You can be happy, but not too happy. You can be excited, but not too excited. So I learned to numb out a lot of the time. And what I've come to discover for me now is that if I want to embrace my magnificence, it's important to me. I value embracing my emotions, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, like all of it, because it's part of me. It's an integral part of me. There is value in being just spitting mad about something, about being so angry about something. There's an energy to it because emotion is energy in motion. Well, it keeps us from being stagnant. It keeps us from burrowing in. Fear is an integral part of us, and rightfully so, because there are times in our lives when our very being is threatened, and the only thing that saves us is fear washing over us so that we can fight, flee, or freeze. So each emotion that we experience has a value to it in our very nature and our very beingness. So being magnificently angry has a purpose. Being magnificently sad has a purpose. Being magnificently joyful, a different purpose altogether. And a lot of them are just different ends of the spectrum, right? So one of the things that I'm learning as an older adult who's been through the whole denial trip of, oh, well, it's okay. I'm not really upset. I'm inside. I'm kind of seething a little bit. So I'm out of integrity with who I am. And I don't want that for myself. I want to be able to express what I'm feeling. Of course, the caution in that is, first of all, it's perfectly fine. Matt Kahn was talking about this in one of his videos. He was saying that the emotion is totally natural, normal, it's part of you, and it's all good. The only time that emotion or feelings cause problems is if we actually do something because of the emotion to harm ourselves or to harm another. And I get that. And that to me just makes perfect sense, that I need to be able to deal with my emotions in such a way that it's not going to cause harm to me and it's not going to cause harm to anyone else. Outside of, or yeah, and so there's the parameters, right? So inside of those parameters, then it's up to me to express what's there and not keep it in. Because what happens when we keep in what's just begging to get out? Well, it festers, it causes this dis-ease in the body. And our bodies will tell us, don't go there, don't suck that up, because you suck it up, and where does it go? Well, it goes somewhere into your tissues, and you might not like the end result of that. I've got such neck pain, and maybe the day before you were railing against this coworker who was just a royal pain in the neck, and you sucked it up, you dealt with it, or you thought you did, and you sucked it up, and then your neck said, oh man, am I sore? Well, it can be as simple as that. I've found this to be so true in my own body when I pay attention to the aches and pains and discomfort that I experience. There's a reason behind it, and often that reason is something that I have not dealt with, that I have not allowed out. And so I internalized it, and oh well, I can't say that, or I can't be that way, or what will people think, and all the shoulds that we grow up with. You shouldn't be that way, you shouldn't be angry, you shouldn't be, on and on and on it goes. Well, but I am angry, I am irritated, I am upset, I am all those things. Well, of course, it's like the pressure cooker that doesn't have the little safety valve on the top. If we keep stuffing and stuffing and stuffing, and we keep the lid on, and put the lid back on, and then stuff some more in there, put the lid back on, and eventually the pressure builds up to the point where we literally don't know what to do with it except just let it explode out of us. And so then we have that big vat of misery to deal with, when if we had just dealt with the minor irritation, it wouldn't be an issue, because it didn't build up. It dealt with that. So little kids in the playground, and particularly I notice with little boys, well, if they're upset with one another, there's two of them there, and they're upset with one another, well, they have a little tussle about it, and then it's done, and they're friends again. So, but of course, as adults, we're not allowed necessarily to deal with it that way, that we think we need to just go along to get along for the good of everyone. And I don't think has served us that well. The other part of that's a challenge is that nobody taught us how to communicate so that we can feel safe around one another, especially when we're dealing with emotions that are hard to either express or they seem volatile. Nobody shows us how to handle that in a way, unless we've been in therapy for years and years. And even then, sometimes we don't get any strategies to know how to handle that in relation to other people, so that it's not such a big deal. Whew. Well, acceptance. So it's important that we begin to accept what is really going on for us, and to learn to be okay with it and say, well, that is a part of me. Maybe I don't like it so much. Maybe I want to do something to adjust it or fix it or change it. As an example, do I like that I have this craving for sweet things? So if I'm feeling, it doesn't seem to matter if I'm feeling really sad or I'm feeling really happy. I look towards the cookie jar to see if there's anything good in there. And I realized that it's a pattern from when I was a kid, especially if I was feeling bad. Oh, you're feeling bad. I'm so sorry. Well, dry your tears and have a cookie. So this was my bewildered parents' response to not knowing what to do to make me feel better, when probably what I really needed was somebody to just envelop me in one of those just snuggly hugs and pat me on the back and say, it's okay, go ahead and cry until you feel better. But no, I got the, stop that crying or we'll give you something to cry about. And well-meaning though that was, because let's face it, none of us is all that comfortable with somebody bawling their eyes out in front of us. We can accept it in little kids because, oh, well, they don't know any better. Well, actually, they do know better. They know better out than in. So there's times when I just like to sit down in the middle of the mall and stamp my feet and have a right old temper tantrum. Because I know what would happen. I'd feel much better once I got up because I released it, and I've explored that enough. So a few years ago, I was living in a townhouse. And I had one of those weeks where within a few days, 3 things that were big to me went wrong. That equipment broke down and things that I hadn't counted on. All of a sudden, I've got a mess. And when the 3rd thing happened, my mind was just so overwhelmed with all of this onslaught of what I was thinking and what I was feeling. And I was really, really, really upset. So I went down into the basement and I'm standing there. And of course, I want to go into fix-it mode right away, except that my emotions were just swamping me. So I let out this primal scream and I said a few not so polite words along with it, hoping that nobody was home so they wouldn't hear this primal scream coming from the basement. But I was pretty sure that it wasn't going to, the sound wasn't going to come out. Funny how we think about that while we're in the midst of this big emotional deal. I let out this primal scream and it felt so good. It was raw. It was real. It was ugly. It was an ugly, ugly, ugly sound that I'd never heard from the depths of me. I'm not sure I'd ever heard that sound. And I'm going, whoa, where did that come from? It felt so good after I'd done that. And then it was as if my brain fog evaporated and I was able to think more clearly, because what I was faced with at that moment was to empty a deep freeze that had quit working, was full of food and full of water. And I had to do something about it to salvage as much food as I could, and also to clean up the mess that there was inside this deep freeze. I was able to function after that. I was able to just methodically, systematically, and of course, as happens, my mood switched from this huge rage into this whimsical laughing at myself. Well, Sue, I guess what just happened wasn't life-threatening and it wasn't fattening. So I guess you're okay. So, and bless that little whimsical bit for sliding on in, because then I could have a giggle at myself and move forward. So now there's a tendency when we hit those patches to want to beat ourselves up for what we've just done. That's just not good. It's not appropriate to do that. And this is where the acceptance comes in, right? To accept that, well, that's the way I was feeling. That's what I did to release it. Good, we're done. Let's move on. And not dwell on it unnecessarily. And to cut yourself some slack, because let's face it, on any given day, in any given moment, we are doing the best we can. If we knew how to do it better, we would do that too, but we don't. So we deal with the way we best know how. And as I've learned to go, as I've learned when I've grown, I've found other strategies that have helped me to not only release these emotions in the way that served me the best and ultimately served others the best, but I've found ways to accept myself, that, oh, well, that's me in all my magnificence, and to honor that and say, oh, well, I didn't know that was there, but there it is, and be gentle with myself, have self-compassion, so that, and of course, when I can do that for me, it's a whole lot easier to do it with other people as well, because there's that recognition of, yeah, I've been there. That happens to me. I can accept that that happens to them too. So that's the part I wanted to talk about with acceptance today. If some of that resonates with you, feel free to leave a comment. I love getting comments. I love people who subscribe to my channel. And if you're interested in a community that wrestles with these questions about life, that takes us out of the ordinary everyday hustle and grind that we're mostly involved in, to explore what's on our minds, what's in our hearts. Not that we're necessarily, we have to find our own answers. Really, that's what I discover, is that through this process, I find my answers. But in community with others, where we walk each other home, then there's that support and different perspective and different ideas that can make the journey so much more rewarding and a whole lot easier as well. So that community that I'm co-creating with Criss Angel is called the Magnificence Lab. So if you're curious about that and you want to learn a little bit more about what we're creating at the Magnificence Lab, it's all an experiment, right? To really embody heaven on earth, then go to the website, which is magnificencelab.org/invite. And there you'll see a little video that will where Criss and I are going back and forth talking about what the Magnificence Lab is all about. So I encourage you to do that. You're also welcome to subscribe to my channel, where you'll see a whole bunch of videos on everything that I've ever wanted to talk about. And I guess I haven't run out of things to say, because I'm still talking. In the meantime, be your magnificent selves. Learn to accept you as the magnificent creation that you are. Until next time, bye for now.